The massive, futuristic arena buzzed with excitement as the alien warriors gathered to watch the highly anticipated intergalactic tournament. The air was thick with tension, and the energy was electric, as an audience from various planets eagerly awaited the showdown between the most powerful beings across the universe. Towering walls of gleaming metal and shining light seemed to stretch endlessly toward the heavens, casting long shadows across the arena floor. Among the crowd, a young alien warrior named Drakthar stood confidently, clad in his ornate, golden armor. His armor, designed with intricate engravings of his people's ancient symbols, reflected the pride of his culture. His strong, muscular form, coupled with the sophisticated technology that powered his armor, made him an imposing figure. He was the image of perfection in battle, swift, powerful, and nearly invincible. The air around him seemed to hum with the energy of his advanced weaponry. His armor had been passed down from generations of his ancestors, each battle-tested, a symbol of his unyielding strength. The crowd suddenly grew quiet as the human competitor, Captain John, stepped onto the arena floor. His figure was much smaller in comparison to the towering alien warriors, and he wore a simple, matte gray suit of armor. It looked clunky and outdated, an archaic relic from a bygone era compared to Drakthar's state-of-the-art, technologically advanced armor. A few low murmurs spread across the arena as the human's presence seemed almost laughable. Drakthar, standing tall and proud, couldn't help but let out a low chuckle. He exchanged knowing glances with his fellow warriors, who joined him in their laughter. How could a human, an inferior species in their eyes, dare to compete in such a prestigious event with such primitive protection? The human's armor looked like something from the history books, not fit for a battle of this magnitude. "Is this a joke?" Drakthar muttered aloud, his voice booming across the arena. "They actually expect this thing to stand against us." His words were laced with mockery, and the laughter that followed only seemed to heighten the absurdity of the situation. As Captain John made his way to the center of the arena, Drakthar's laughter grew louder. His alien comrades, dressed in their own sleek, glittering suits of armor, joined in with taunts and jeers. "What is he wearing? A piece of scrap metal. He looks like he's wearing a child's costume," one of them called out, drawing more laughter from the crowd. Drakthar's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Look at him, standing there like a fool. Does he really think he can defeat any of us with such an embarrassment of armor?" He motioned toward the human with a sweeping gesture, as if Captain John were nothing more than a passing inconvenience. "This is our arena. This is where the strongest of the strong compete, not for weaklings wrapped in cheap tin." The human, Captain John, remained calm and unaffected by the mockery that surrounded him. His eyes were fixed on the center of the arena, his demeanor stoic as he readied himself for the challenge ahead. He was not rattled by Drakthar's harsh words or the sneers of the alien warriors. Despite the ridicule, there was something quietly powerful in his calmness. Drakthar watched the human for a moment, eyes narrowing as the taunts continued. "You're going to regret this, human," Drakthar sneered, his confidence undeterred. "You'll see that no amount of human spirit will save you once you step into the ring with a true warrior. You'll crumble before the might of the aliens, just like all the others before you." The alien warriors around Drakthar echoed his sentiments, laughing even harder as they gathered to witness the spectacle. They had all fought countless battles, each one a testament to their advanced abilities and unmatched strength. The idea that this human, who appeared weak, frail, and unprepared, could stand toe-to-toe with them was nothing short of laughable. As Drakthar took a step forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over the arena floor, he raised his voice, addressing the audience. "It's time to teach this human his place. He may have a spirit, but no amount of willpower can defeat the superiority of our technology and strength." The crowd's excitement mounted, and a few alien spectators exchanged excited whispers. But just as Drakthar prepared to initiate the battle, Captain John did something unexpected. Slowly, deliberately, he reached up and began removing his helmet. The crowd went silent, confused by this strange action. Was this part of the human strategy? Did he plan to fight without protection? Drakthar's laugh faltered for just a moment as he watched. The human wasn't even fazed by the jeering from the crowd. He simply continued to remove his helmet and set it aside. "What is he doing?" Drakthar muttered under his breath. He could feel the shift in the atmosphere, though he was unsure of what it meant. Was the human going to surrender before the fight even began? Or was there something more to this human than meets the eye? The tension in the air grew thick, and even Drakthar's confidence wavered as he watched the human in front of him. The alien warrior stood there, still clutching his weapon, but his mind began to race. There was something unusual about this human, something he couldn't quite place. It wasn't just the way he stood. It wasn't the fact that he wasn't afraid. No, it was something deeper, something that hinted at a power far beyond what Drakthar had imagined. The countdown for the battle was about to begin, and yet Drakthar couldn't shake the feeling that the human had just played a card that no one could anticipate. He was ready to dismiss it, to laugh it off as a last-ditch effort at saving face. But deep down, Drakthar knew that there was something more at play, and he was about to find out just what that was. As the silence in the arena stretched on, all eyes were now focused on Captain John. His armor, once seen as a laughable relic, had been removed, leaving him standing bare-chested in his undersuit. His calm demeanor seemed even more unnerving now, as if he was prepared for something far beyond the scope of this battle. Drakthar stood frozen, watching in disbelief, the laughter of his comrades dying down to a nervous murmur. Something was happening, and Drakthar could feel it in the air. Captain John's body, though ordinary to the naked eye, began to hum with an unexpected energy. It was faint at first, a soft buzz that only a few of the most sensitive warriors could detect. Drakthar, however, was not among them. He stared at the human, his mind trying to comprehend the unfolding mystery. Was this some kind of human trick? Some last attempt at survival? Or was it something much more than that? The energy surrounding John seemed to grow stronger, like the faintest shimmer of light in a dark room. It wasn't flashy or overbearing, but it was enough to draw attention. The audience, now utterly captivated, leaned forward, eager to understand what was unfolding before their eyes. Even the alien warriors, who had mocked the human's armor, began to fall silent. They too could sense something different in the air. Captain John lifted his head, meeting Drakthar's gaze. His eyes, once simple and human, now seemed to burn with an intensity that made Drakthar's chest tighten. It was as if the human's very presence commanded the arena, not with force, but with sheer willpower. The alien warrior couldn't explain it, but for the first time in this entire competition, he felt something unfamiliar, something unsettling. "What is this?" Drakthar muttered under his breath, his voice shaking slightly. He didn't know if it was fear or confusion that gripped him, but he knew this wasn't the human he had expected. John's entire aura had shifted from that of a weakling to something far more formidable. There was no arrogance, no pretense in the way the human stood. He wasn't trying to be anything more than what he was, but there was an undeniable power in his presence. Captain John took a step forward, and the hum in the air intensified. Drakthar could feel it now, pressing against his body, as if the very fabric of space was bending around the human. It wasn't magic, nor was it alien technology. It was something older, something primal, something that Drakthar had never encountered before in all his battles across the galaxies. Then, without warning, Captain John raised his hand, palm facing upward. A surge of energy erupted from his body, rippling through the air like a shockwave. The alien warriors gasped in unison, taken aback by the raw power they were witnessing. Drakthar's heart skipped a beat. His eyes widened in shock as he saw the air around John begin to distort, bending and warping like heat rising off a desert ground. The human's body wasn't just glowing. It was alive with energy, as though it was tapping into a force beyond the limits of their understanding. Drakthar instinctively took a step back, his hand gripping the hilt of his weapon. He had seen many things in his life, many powerful warriors, many advanced technologies. But nothing like this. The human was tapping into something far beyond his comprehension, something that made his own armor and strength seem trivial. John's expression remained calm as he took another step forward, the energy building with each movement. The alien warriors could feel the pressure mounting in the air, like the world itself was holding its breath. The hum became a pulse, a rhythmic beat that seemed to resonate with the very heart of the arena. Drakthar's confidence faltered as he realized that this human was not only unafraid, but was now the one holding the upper hand. "Do you feel that?" One of the alien warriors whispered to Drakthar, his voice laced with awe. Drakthar didn't answer, his focus entirely on Captain John. His mind raced, trying to process what was happening. How could a mere human possess such power? This was not technology. This was something ancient, something primal. The human had tapped into a force far older than any of their races had ever encountered. It was raw, untamed, and it was growing stronger by the second. John's lips parted slightly as he spoke, his voice carrying across the arena, calm but filled with an undeniable authority. "I didn't come here to fight you," he said, his voice ringing out. "I came here to show you that strength doesn't come from armor or weapons. It comes from within. It comes from the will to stand, no matter the odds." The words were simple, but their impact was profound. Drakthar could feel the weight of them pressing against his chest, as if the human's very voice had the power to crush him. The arena, once filled with jeers and laughter, now stood in stunned silence. For the first time in his life, Drakthar felt vulnerable, exposed. The power that radiated from John was not something that could be measured by technology or armor. It was something far deeper, something that no alien warrior had ever encountered before. Captain John's eyes locked onto Drakthar's, and for a moment, the entire arena seemed to fall away. It was just the two of them, two warriors, standing on the precipice of something greater than either could have imagined. The human's calmness was no longer a sign of weakness, but of a strength that Drakthar could not deny. The alien warrior knew then that this battle would not be won with strength alone. No, this battle was about something far greater, a test of spirit, of heart, and of the will to stand against impossible odds. And for the first time, Drakthar understood that he might not be the one who would walk away victorious. The arena was silent, each person holding their breath, as Captain John and Drakthar stood locked in a standoff. The energy surrounding the human had only intensified, crackling in the air like electricity waiting to strike. Drakthar had been certain of his victory, his confidence built on the foundation of his advanced armor, strength, and the superiority of his species. But now, standing before Captain John, he felt something shift inside him, something that gnawed at the very core of his arrogance. Captain John was not just a human. He was something far more. His body, though unprotected, radiated an energy that Drakthar could no longer ignore. The alien warrior's armor, once a symbol of invincibility, now felt like a mere shell. The human had stripped away all pretense, showing that true power did not lie in weapons or technology, but in the strength of will, heart, and spirit. Drakthar took a deep breath, trying to steady his thoughts, but the pressure in the air only seemed to increase. The hum of energy from Captain John echoed in his ears, vibrating through his very bones. He clenched his fists tighter, the familiar weight of his weapon still giving him a sense of comfort. But that comfort was quickly fading. The crowd around them was still, the tension palpable. No one had ever seen anything like this before. A human, standing there without the protection of advanced armor, facing down one of the fiercest warriors the galaxy had ever known. Drakthar had to remind himself that he was no ordinary warrior. He had faced countless enemies, and none had ever stood in his way for long. Yet this human was different. There was a resolve in John's eyes that he had never seen before. The arena's energy shifted as Captain John slowly lifted his hand, palm facing outward. The subtle vibration in the air intensified, growing stronger with each passing second. It was almost as if the arena itself was bending to the will of the human. Drakthar's heart pounded in his chest as he felt the ground beneath him tremble, the very walls of the arena vibrating with the sheer force of the energy surrounding Captain John. "What are you doing?" Drakthar's voice trembled slightly as he took a cautious step back. It was a question he had not planned on asking, but the unease that had settled within him demanded it. He was no longer the predator. He was the prey. Captain John's expression remained calm. His eyes locked onto Drakthar with a quiet intensity. "I'm not doing anything," he replied softly, his voice carrying the weight of ancient wisdom. "I'm simply showing you the truth. Strength is not about domination. It's about understanding what you're capable of when you believe in yourself." The words hung in the air like a powerful incantation. The human's quiet confidence began to unnerve Drakthar even more. How could someone so unassuming possess such power? How could someone without the tools of a true warrior stand against him? Drakthar tightened his grip on his weapon, his knuckles turning white. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of what was happening. He had seen many battles in his time, fought many different species, but nothing like this. Nothing that made him feel so vulnerable. The weight of his own arrogance now seemed suffocating, and for the first time, he began to question whether he had truly understood the meaning of strength. Captain John stepped forward, his movements deliberate and measured. The energy around him grew, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed to sync with the heartbeat of the arena. The air crackled with raw power, and Drakthar could feel it pressing against his chest, making it harder to breathe. He staggered slightly, his legs buckling under the immense pressure. His once firm stance now seemed fragile, as if the very force of the human's power was pushing him back. "No," Drakthar growled, trying to steady himself. His pride, once unshakable, now felt like a distant memory. He had to fight back, had to prove to the audience, to his people, that he was still the strongest. With a roar, he launched himself at Captain John, his weapon raised high, ready to strike down the human with all the fury he could muster. But as he moved forward, something extraordinary happened. The energy in the arena shifted, and Captain John's hand glowed with a brilliant light. In an instant, the human raised his palm, and a shockwave of force erupted, sending Drakthar flying backward. His armor, once indestructible, now felt like a burden, and the alien warrior crashed into the arena floor with an explosive thud. The crowd gasped in shock as Drakthar struggled to regain his footing. The alien warrior's breath was shallow, his heart racing in his chest. The human had not only blocked his attack, but had sent him sprawling across the arena with ease. The once unbeatable Drakthar was now on the ground, his weapon scattered far from his reach. The force of the impact had shaken him to his core. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. The alien warrior lay there, gasping for breath, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Captain John stood calmly, his hand still glowing with a soft light, as if the attack had been nothing more than a simple gesture. Drakthar's mind was spinning. He had been bested by a human, a species he had considered weak, inferior, and unworthy of his time. But now, in the wake of his defeat, he realized how wrong he had been. The human had not just outmatched him physically. He had shattered Drakthar's entire worldview, revealing that strength could come from the most unexpected places. As Drakthar struggled to rise to his feet, his eyes met Captain John's once more. The human's expression had not changed. There was no malice in his eyes, no satisfaction in seeing his enemy defeated. There was only quiet resolve, a warrior's respect for the battle, and a deep understanding of something that Drakthar had never fully grasped. "You have strength," Captain John said softly, his voice carrying the weight of the revelation. "But you still have much to learn." Drakthar's world had been turned upside down, and for the first time, He was truly humbled. Drakthar struggled to rise to his feet, his body aching from the brutal impact. His golden armor, once gleaming with pride, now looked battered and insignificant, its once imposing figure failing to protect him from the human's unexpected power. The alien warrior's breath came in sharp gasps as he pushed himself up, his legs trembling from the force of the shockwave that had sent him sprawling across the arena. He could hear the hushed murmurs of the audience, their astonishment palpable as they witnessed a scene no one had expected. Drakthar, the mighty alien warrior, defeated by a human. Captain John stood calmly before him, his glowing hand still raised, the energy around him now dissipating into the air. There was no expression of triumph or arrogance on the human's face. In fact, John looked almost serene. His chest rose and fell slowly with each breath, his eyes never leaving Drakthar's, a quiet understanding in them. He had not come to destroy Drakthar, nor to show off his newfound power. Instead, he had come to teach something far more valuable than mere combat: humility, respect, and the true meaning of strength. Drakthar's mind was spinning. He had always believed that strength was something that could be measured by armor, technology, and raw power. He had thought that victory was won through superiority, that domination was the only path to respect. But now, standing before Captain John, all of that seemed irrelevant. He had been so certain of his own strength, so convinced of his own invincibility, that he had overlooked the most fundamental truth: the power of the heart and mind. It was not the armor or the weapons that made a warrior. It was their will, their spirit, and their ability to fight, not just with strength, but with purpose. The audience, once filled with doubt and mockery, was now silent. The hushed whispers had turned into stunned silence, as each spectator took in the reality of what had just happened. A human had stood against one of the greatest warriors in the galaxy, and not only had he survived, but he had won. Drakthar could feel the eyes of the entire arena on him, and for the first time in his life, he felt small. His immense power, his armor, his confidence, all of it seemed so insignificant now in the face of the human's quiet resolve. Captain John stepped forward, his movements slow and deliberate, as if giving Drakthar time to process the events. There was no hostility in his steps, no arrogance in his posture. He was simply present. He reached out a hand, offering it to Drakthar. The alien warrior hesitated for a moment, his pride clawing at him, unwilling to accept help from someone he had once mocked. But then, as he looked into Captain John's eyes, he saw something that changed everything: the deep, genuine respect. It was as if the human was extending not just a hand to help him rise, but offering a piece of understanding that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. For a moment, Drakthar stood still, the weight of the realization pressing heavily on his chest. He had been defeated, but it wasn't the defeat he had imagined. It wasn't about losing the battle. It was about losing the arrogance that had clouded his judgment for so long. He had been so focused on proving his strength, on showing the galaxy that he was superior, that he had never stopped to consider the true meaning of power. With a deep breath, Drakthar slowly extended his hand and grasped John's, allowing the human to pull him to his feet. The moment their hands met, something shifted within him. It was not just the physical act of standing up, but the internal shift, a humbling, a realization that had been buried deep inside his warrior's heart. For the first time, Drakthar understood what true strength was. It wasn't in the armor, or the weapons, or the battle itself. It was in the ability to rise above one's pride and ego, and to see the worth in others, no matter their race or appearance. Captain John smiled slightly, the warmth in his expression a stark contrast to the tension that had once filled the arena. "You fought well," John said simply. "You didn't give up, even when it seemed impossible. That's what makes a true warrior." Drakthar's chest tightened with emotion. He had always believed that being a warrior meant being the strongest, the most powerful, the one who could crush all opposition. But now he saw that being a true warrior meant having the strength to face oneself, to learn from every battle, whether won or lost, and to carry that knowledge forward with honor. The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers growing louder as they recognized the significance of the moment. This was no longer just a battle between two warriors. It was a lesson in humility, respect, and the true meaning of strength. Drakthar, still recovering from the shock of his defeat, stood tall, not in pride, but in newfound understanding. He had lost the battle, but in doing so, he had gained something far more valuable, a lesson that would change him forever. As the cheers of the crowd echoed through the arena, Drakthar turned his gaze back to Captain John. This time, there was no mockery in his eyes, no arrogance. Instead, there was a deep, respectful nod. The human had earned his respect, not through power, but through the strength of his heart. "Thank you," Drakthar said quietly, his voice barely audible over the cheers. "I see now what you meant. Strength is not in the armor or the weapon. It's in the heart. You have taught me that today." Captain John nodded, his expression sincere. "It's never too late to learn, Drakthar. True strength is always within you, but it's your heart that will guide you." And with that, the two warriors stood side by side in the arena, a new bond forged between them. The battle was over, but the respect they had earned for each other would last a lifetime. Drakthar had learned that the greatest victories were not always won in combat, but in the heart's ability to change and grow.